Hello everyone and welcome to today's painting demonstration. I am still painting pink paintings until Valentine's Day, and it is Lunar New Year. So I think it would be appropriate if we did a pink full moon. I have the reference photos available for you on my art community Discord, and all the links are in the description, as well as what I'm using for materials for this demonstration. There are two reference photos that we are going to be painting from, and then also we're going to be doing some creative using some creative license as well. But I love the power of these foreground sparkles. It's hard to tell on the stream right now, but I'm going to definitely incorporate those into the composition, which is square, so it's going to be a little bit different. I've also added some clouds. Now I'm using hot press watercolor paper and a mechanical pencil, so everything is very smooth and very soft. Also, in the places where I wanted to retain the highlights on this little drawing, I blended it with my finger and erased it to retain that lightness. And when I use pencil to mark out my plan, I make sure that there's nothing on there that I wouldn't want in the final. So if I question it, then I just erase it completely. I make sure to have a thumbnail representation of what my plan is, just in case I lose track of where I am or what I was doing, because almost always we're going to be going away from the reference or inspiration photos that we're using. And that's what you want to do, because there's almost always some sort of improvement you can make on a photo that you're using. That's why we're painting it. We're not just creating something from nothing, but we're also trying to create something that didn't actually exist, that is beautiful, or taking the viewer on a journey, something we want them to see that is lovely. I am going to start with water in my big filbert brush and the gold that we use for underpainting almost every time. I'm going to be really light in the area on the moon because I don't want to shift that graphite too much. And then after the underpainting is dry, then all that graphite is pretty much sealed in and we don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm going to try to keep my brush strokes intentional and the way that I want them in the final. Nice and soft and horizontal for that area of the sky. The darkest value in this painting is going to be right where the sky meets the ocean. I believe the light in this reference photo, the more realistic one anyway, the sun has set somewhere off to the left of the painting. Somewhere out there. I think these clouds that are in the sky are going to grade from a darker value than the sky to a lighter value than the sky, so they're going to kind of wisp in and out. But they are going to be hugging the moon space. And I like to make sure that the edges of the painting are a little bit darker, just to keep you inside the middle of the scene a bit longer. Okay, now I'm putting water in my brush because I know I need a lighter color for the sky. And that's very, very light. Maybe a little bit darker. Gonna go around the moon because I believe we're gonna install a little bit of a glow. When I drew this, I did use something that was a circle, a perfect circle to trace around. I didn't just freehand that. I actually measured the very center of the paper and then took something round. And for this one, I think it was the bottom of a paint canister. And then traced around it and erased some parts that weren't exactly perfect. So I don't want anybody to think I just, you know, freehanded that easily. Although it's not like I did it live, so who knows? There's no evidence of anything. So it looks like the water is going to get darker as we come closer to us. And I want to make sure I don't lose my interesting sparkle shapes here. And darker at the corners down here as well. If it's darker where our biggest sparkle is, that's going to pop that. It's going to pop that sparkle into very high contrast. It's going to hopefully really glitter. Okay, horizontal brush strokes coming from the edges of the painting. I'm changing from having a big wide flat brush to having a thinner side of the brush. And okay, so now I'm just going to put a very light gold coat over the moon itself. Just very light, very, very light brush strokes. Okay. Just getting rid of the white on that final pass. Okay, that is all covered up. Now we're going to handle this sky color, or should we? Hold on, because we're using unconventional colors. So this is going to be a pink moon, because that's just more fun. So maybe we should start with the pinks and the moon, and then the glow around the moon, the reflections in the water, and then paint purple over that. I think that would probably be the best way to handle it. And then we'll add pink highlights on the edges of the clouds as well. Okay, we're done with the big filbert brush. I'm going to move over to I think a small filbert. I'm sure you've noticed that I detailed out the moon pretty specifically. Even its values are installed pretty well. I'm gonna keep the paints pretty transparent to preserve some of that. Grabbing the cadmium medium red, and I think just a touch of pink. Touch of white to make the pink. You know. Thank goodness you can see the palette so you know what's going on. A little bit more titanium white. I don't want to put this paint on super thick. I want to retain the drawing and the underpainting a bit. Checking my reference. Okay, now it doesn't matter if you go over the lines on this step at all because we're going to be negative painting the moon later. Just kind of go for it. A little bit of water. I'm gonna pick up that color again. Now I'm gonna go outside the moon line, outside of the highlight, which I didn't cover in pink, because I want that to be pretty light in value. Probably gonna mix a little more pink. Oh, excuse me, dog. Okay, so what I've done is I've layered up the pink a little bit. And I've extended it out from the moon, but I'm retaining the highlight there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that same pink color all along this area, all in this reflection. And I am gonna retain the brightest parts because I want them to have more white in them. And I'll do the light pink in a final pass, I think, at the end. Let's get the medium pink in to the ocean. Again, just cadmium red and white. Retaining that big highlight right at the very, very horizon line. And then this is a pretty dry brush, and I am just scrubbing and dragging the color towards the middle of the paper. You could do that when you have such a low texture paper. A little bit of water, mix a little bit more paint. Oops, that was a lot of red. Definitely going to be dragging some white over that. Okay, added water to the brush. Now I'm going to lightly go over some of these areas and overlap onto the highlighted areas, the really, really bright highlights anyway. Just going to lightly overlap, making sure that I still know where they are and they're not just painted over completely. I'm going to take that same color, go over some spots in the clouds. Okay, now I'm going to put that silver aside, but I'm not done with that one. I'm going to pick up a point brush. I think the number 2 point might be a little bit big for this application. I'm going to go with the number 1 point. Okay, so I'm going to use some magenta. But I believe that's a little too dark. I'm going to add a little bit of white to it, to one side of it, so I have the option of going a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. I'm going to use the magenta on the dark values of the moon. Just going to scrub sketchy little lines. I'm going to try to do this quickly. So if I do it quickly, then I can mix the pink color around it. Because that's more of a purple. Picking up the cadmium red and white color, and I'm gonna go around those dark areas, just blending back into them a little bit, overlapping a little bit. I'm using my reference photo a lot more right now. I'm feeling that the purple is a little bit too purple, so I'm adding some cadmium red into that quinacridone magenta, and I'm gonna do another little layer over where it is in the moon right now. I'm feeling a little bit more water is needed on the brush, so I added that. I'm not afraid to overlap the areas that we had marked for dark, because we still have to add the lighter values of the moon, which I'm going to do now. Now that I feel like the color is pretty balanced, I'm going to mix a light, very light pink color. I'm gonna ever so gently go over our light side of the moon. So that's a very delicate edge right there. I'm gonna add water to my brush, kind of clean it off a bit. And then I'm gonna blend the side that is towards the moon. I'm gonna blend it into the areas that are not like, you know, those big shadowed craters. And using sketchy brush strokes, which might be one of my favorite artistic terms, I'm going to paint the light parts of the moon, and I am going to overlap and underlap what we've already painted to get that nice subtle blending. Fun fact, as the moon goes around us, the same side of it always faces us. So if you feel like you've been looking at the same moon your whole life, it's because you have. Unless you moved to some other place in the world, and then it's gonna vary just a little bit. There is a really cool light part down here. It's like some sort of crazy crater, but I think it's pretty neat looking, so I'm gonna detail that a bit. And then bring this white back over to our bright edge of the moon up here. Blend back in a bit again, because as acrylic paints dry, they're going to change a bit. They're going to become, most of the time, more transparent. And then the hue might shift a bit, which I know is scary. That's another reason I use a limited color palette, because it's easier to memorize what your paints are going to do. There's no huge surprises. And then if you're branch mixing, which is to say to mix colors from colors that already exist in your middle space here, well, then it's also less surprising and going to have better harmony. Kind of brighten up the edge over here as well. I'm relying on my reference image quite a bit right now, because this is like, it would count as a landmark. It's just not land that's on this planet. I get kind of intense about landmarks. Although I'm kind of grateful for all these blubs. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm picking up some white on my brush and I'm wedging it into a flat point. And I'm just gonna brush some white over the reflections on the water. I'm gonna overlap them quite a bit. Add a little water, wedging up the brush again, and then back to the highlights. The more water there is on the brush and in the paint, the more transparent it will be when it's dry, despite what it looks like when you put it on. This is going to be our biggest shape right there. It'll be kind of like an organic chevron shape, and then a little sparkly, and then a bigger shape here as well. Okay, keeping track of that, let's get our filbert brush back, the smaller one, and from this pink we're gonna get a sky color going. Going to have to mix a bit more because we're dealing in very small amounts of paint, so a lot of remixing occurs, which is fine. Waste not, want not. I'm taking that magenta and white color and I'm just incorporating it in. Probably a bit more. A bit more. I'm going to start with this color here, which is kind of a medium warm purple, and I'm going to radiate away from the moon. I'm going to dry brush back into that pink color we put down. It's kind of like the moon's glow. as I radiate out from the moon, I'm going to put that paint on thicker. But again, if it starts wiping off of the paper, then just let it dry. We're going to need to mix more of a darker color right now anyway. So magenta, cad red, look how intense that is. Some white. Cerulean blue. That's going to cool down your purple. This is a color that I want right up against the ocean, so I'm going to start there. Very gentle, I'm going to paint up to the edge, that sharp edge. Putting another coat on that horizon line. Now I'm going to move that color up. Around the edges of the painting. I'm just, when I take this color, I'm putting it on thick towards the edges of the painting. As I get closer to something I'm going to need to blend into, the brush strokes get a little bit more dry and transparent. I'm also lightly keeping track of where the clouds are going to be. And every time I mix more of this purple color, which is a bit, I could have possibly mixed more of this in the very beginning. I'm just incorporating it into the other areas of the painting, which is going to bring better depth of color. It's not going to look like a flat color. It's going to look like it's deep, and then also the underpainting radiating from it is going to give like a subtle glow. So now cloud color. I can't remember if I've decided to go, oh no I did, darker away from the sun side, and then lighter pink towards where the sun would be setting, which is going to be on the left. So to get this purple darker, I'm going to be using ultramarine blue and adding a little bit more magenta. Still using the filbert brush, and I'm kind of doing a lot of stippling. And I'm just going to come back to those areas. The areas that need to be darker, that is. Scrubbing those brush strokes on. Okay, these guys are going to be a lot lighter. I think almost entirely lighter. Mixing some more pink, but I didn't take all the purple out of my brush, so it's going to have a little bit of purple in it. And I'm going to put this in with lighter clouds. Overlapping the spot that we have designated for it. That cloud right there is destined to go over the moon just a little bit, making it darker as a result, and then I'm going to lighten it up as it goes this direction, but I want this one to be kind of one of those horizontal wispy ones. A little bit more pink. There we go. Bringing some purple back into it to set it in the scene a little bit better. I'm going to be working on this blend around the moon as well. Don't worry about that. Dry brushing for that cloud right there. It's got a different vibe than the others. Mixing up a little bit more dirty medium pink, and I'm going to the edges of these dark clouds. Okay, now let's blend back into that more blue purple. There's a lot more work in the sky than there is in the water, believe me. The water is going to go much faster. But the moon in this painting is our focal point, so it is totally okay to spend a lot of time here. I'm blending back into the horizon color to get that glow, like a little bit softer blended. I mean, none of these blends are going to be perfectly gradated because we're not using airbrushes, we're not using oil paints, we're not using watercolor. So we need to use a variety of transparent texture, transparent paint layering, and texture to make everything look like it belongs. So that's what a lot of this back and forth is achieving. Waiting for things to dry, coming back. Because when they dry, they do something a little bit different. Like now this cloud is ready for another little touch up, so some highlights on the side of it. Some little wispies. There is some space to add a little bit of stars here, but they're going to be just like up in this corner if we do them at all, which I feel like there's room for some stars. That's not gonna upset anybody. Got some more dark blue purple, and I'm going back to those dark shadowed clouds. Still using the filbert brush and still using lots of scrubbing action. And I'm overlapping the light colors that we've put in these clouds, and I'm overlapping the dark colors as well. And then I'm going to drag over the entire thing and onto the sky in this corner because I don't want any of those hard lines to lead your eye off of the painting and into the abyss. Now I'm going to grab some ultramarine blue, mix it into that purple color we were just using a second ago, and I'm going to darken up the edge of the sky where the clouds are not, and I'm going to scrub and drag that color to blend it into what we have going on. And you know, ultramarine is a very transparent color as it is, so you definitely don't need to add any water to that to accomplish this effect. Okay, now I'm going to go back to darken up these clouds a bit again. Just going to get rid of any hard lines that I see there. I also might take that dark cloud value. I added a little bit of water to it, and I'm going to brush it down on the horizon line on that side of the painting, on the right side. Add some water, clean off the brush again, and then I'm going to blend. Clean water, clean, clean, clean. Get get the angles. Okay, and then soften up that transition. Okay, great. I think I'm pretty happy with the sky. And if you are too, you can move on to the water. Okay, so I'm gonna mix the ocean color, starting with dark value. I'm gonna use basically the same purple, but more ultramarine. Well, we use magenta for all of our purples, so of course. So the quinacridone magenta and the ultramarine blue are making a really, really dark, really powerful color. And I'm going to switch over to a flat brush. I'm going to medium flat, 1/4 inch. Just add water. Let's go over to our ultramarine magenta mix. And I'm going to start with the darkest parts of this painting, which are the very foreground. And I'm going to use horizontal broad brush strokes. There's going to be a lot of layering and transparency. I'm going to gently paint around those interesting foreground shapes that I love. Those are going to be conveying the motion of the ocean, which is very gentle in this scene. The brush is pretty horizontal, pretty perpendicular to the paper, and I'm just gently laying on this paint. It's not incredibly thick either, it's important to note. Let's see. I want to gently paint around these shapes, but I don't want to make any weird brush strokes. Now if you put some paint on and you feel a little weird about the brush stroke that put it there, if it's still wet, you can still fix it. You still have time without having to paint over it. So if you have to use a vertical brush stroke to convey something, a shape that you really want, you can just kind of quickly do it and then put some horizontal strokes right over that. Friendly reminder, if your paint is lifting, just go somewhere else until it's dry. I have to do that reminder to myself all the time. And I keep on wanting to touch that spot, and it's like, no, just leave it. Just leave it. Leave it alone. Okay, I'm so glad that I got around those spots. Without anything tragic happening. It feels good, man. Okay, there we go. The chevron is in. And it was every bit as scary as I thought it would be. Okay, I'm going to take that darkest color and just go up the right side of the ocean, but getting smaller and smaller as I get up to that horizon line. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of cerulean blue to the edge of that purple color that we've been using for the bottom foreground of the sea. And I'm going to overlap what we got here using very intentional brush strokes. They're going to mimic these laps in the water, the lapping water. But I don't know if that's right. You know, the subtle little wave marks. I guess lap is a verb. So that's what they do when they come up on the shore. Can't be sure if it's before that. I'm using the small edge of the brush to go in around these highlights I mixed just a little bit of white and red. As I'm working towards the horizon line, I don't want that to be a stark contrast. And I'm going to be really careful painting up to that edge. It's totally normal if it's a little bit harder to go one direction than the other. I'm right-handed, so going right is quite a bit easier for me. Okay, I'm digging that. I put some water in my brush, but it still has that horizon purple in it. And I am going to paint around all these little dappled light that's in the ocean. And I'm doing it with water in my brush because that's gonna let a lot of this pink underpainting show. But it's gonna do it in a really watery way, which I might also have to trademark as a term of mine. Okay, going around, going around. Don't be too fixated on the shapes yet, because right now we're still at a spot where you can fix something with just a little bit of white paint over the top. Not a big deal. This is just the color that we're going to blend into the darker ocean as we're installing all those little wave shapes. So this is that purple color that I mixed for the horizon, and I'm mixing it back into the ocean color, then the more medium ocean color that has the cerulean blue in it. Adding a little bit more cerulean blue. A lot of mixing on the fly, depending on how much you mixed in the beginning. And there's no way for me to know how much happened for you. So you're on your own in that regard, but that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so now I'm taking this color and I'm just going back and forth. Overlapping and underlapping what is here, which is on the right side, the darker ocean color, and then the lighter color that's around all those little dappled doodads. Still leaving a little bit of underpainting. I'm thinking I'm going to add a little bit of the purple from the sky on the top of the ocean, but only towards the middle. Picking up more cerulean blue because I'm going over to the left side of the sea. Okay, I think I'm gonna pick up some white and cadmium red, mix some purple, make that cerulean blue a little bit more purple. But you know, when you use cadmium red instead of the magenta, you're going to get a more muted purple. Because the cerulean blue and the cadmium red are both shifted a little bit more towards the warm side of things, that's why the purple is going to be so muted. But that's what I want to see. I don't want everything to be so intense. Okay, now I'm mixing a little bit of magenta into that same color. I'm going over to the right side. Just a little bit darker over here. This is also something more similar to what we have in the sky. Looks neat, like I still need to edge in and blend a lot of this middle area. This is a good time because both sides are still wet in the middle. Mixing a little bit of titanium white into our muted purple, and I'm going to the middle of our scene, the middle of our reflection. Really light brush strokes there. Now I'm going to clean out the brush, wipe it, and then I'm going to soften up some of those paint brush marks I just put in, just on one edge of them. Don't want them all to be so sharp. Want some of them to blend into what we got going on. Okay, we've got a pretty good amount of varying color. And now you can see in the very beginning we underlapped and overlapped some pink onto these highlights, and now you can see why. You got some really beautiful ombre stuff happening. Now that we have a lot of the medium tones and even the light tones in the ocean, and it has a nice dimension, you can definitely tell there's a little bit more light on this side of what's going on. I am going to take that dark magenta and ultramarine blue color that we mixed in the very beginning of our ocean painting, and I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and I'm just going to drag up this color, but only in shapes that make sense with what our water is doing. So they're going to be small at the beginning and the end when I put the brush down. Applying slight pressure at the beginning of the stroke, heavy pressure at the middle of the stroke, and then light pressure again at the end of the stroke. I'm going to pick up a slightly lighter color and do this a little bit higher. The same thing. Now, if you don't like what you put down, you have time. Just grab some water, rinse out your brush real quick, and just calmly go back to where you were. See, I did it twice. It's totally fine. It's a normal. Okay. I'm trying to think, what do we need? What do we need? I'm enjoying what we have right now. I do enjoy that. Well, while I'm deciding and all of that stuff is painting, we're going to take our tiniest script brush. It's the only script brush we use on paintings this size, honestly. It's number 1 liner. Script liner. One in the same, or at least similar enough. It's the tiniest point. I'm gonna use some water to form the tip, and I'm gonna take just the smallest amount of white paint. I'm gonna shape my brush with the paint on it, on my palette, twirl it a bit to make sure that that point is the tiniest, and I'm gonna put some stars in, but only where there are no clouds, and off here, out here, you gotta be real careful. You don't want to make any weird shapes. I'm also gonna cluster them. I'm going to attempt to vary the pressure and rotate the brush. You can double up on some of these to make them a little bit brighter and a little bit bigger. feel like there might be a couple here. Maybe lighter ones. Okay, I'm picking up quite a bit more white now, and I'm just gonna go over the lightest part of our moon, that brightest edge. It's gonna take, just be gentle. Take your time. Rinse out the brush. Blend the inside line. I dragged a little bit much water over. You can just pick that up by drying off your brush and going back to it. Okay, I quite enjoy those little stars actually. That worked out just fine. I think maybe a couple of them could even be a little bit bigger. When I say a couple, I literally mean two. Maybe I'm feeling this one. And this one. Okay. Now, with my script brush again, we're still on this guy. I'm gonna wedge my tip in the white paint, and the sharpest side I'm going to highlight our white reflective. Not the whole thing, just like a part of it. And not all of them either. And it's okay if it overlaps the blue. There's a couple examples for you of it overlapping just straight on the blue. If you painted it over a little too much of your reflective pink color, this would be the time where you can add that back. I'm gonna put a big old highlight, a moon-shaped highlight though, in this big reflection in our chevron. So it's just gonna be like a round bleb or oval. I might add some pink to that area though. I'm gonna take some light, a very light pink. Has a lot of water in it too, so it's gonna be transparent. going around that white that I just put down. Might add a little bit more red, doing that, because I don't quite see what I want yet. Okay. I'm gonna wipe off the brush, and then I'm gonna point some of the sparkle. This is the scary part. I don't feel like I'm great at this. We're gonna try it anyway. There's only one way to get good at something, right? Is to try, possibly fail. If you're feeling like it's really bad, like what happened to me just now, what? You do have time to grab water and wipe it off. No way, that was awful. I don't know how people do it. I've been trying. Maybe it just doesn't work with my style. I don't know. It's like a radial gradient that comes off these sparkles. Well, what I'm gonna do though is I'm just gonna put a big old bleb of white paint on the top of it. To make it nice and bright. If you want to do that with the point brush, it probably would have been a smarter bet. A little bit more control when you have heavy paint. There we go. And here. And here. Okay. Well, that was exciting. Okay. I feel like I'm happy with the composition. I feel like your eye goes exactly where it needs to go, which is not too hard considering we have one center focal point and everything just surrounds it, hugs it. All the colors go from darker to lighter, kind of like up towards the moon. I love those little sparkly stars. That's real fun. Should we add some little pink highlight onto these clouds over here on the left, maybe? Just a little bit. I'm using the point brush, and I'm just gonna sketch. Sketch some shapes on. I'm dry brush blending that color on one side. Okay, I think that does it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out during this pink full moon demonstration, and I will see you again for next time, another pink painting, and until then, happy painting yourself.
Even after Simpsons music is